AEW Forbidden Door is done and over, and it's a little bit underwhelming. Just like I do with every pay-per-view. I took a shower, I jerked off, and I got my thoughts together, so let's talk about it. We open up the night with Adam Copeland and Christian Cage versus Kip Sabian and Killswitch. Copeland plays mind games with Kip Sabian and runs around the ring post. Killswitch would use Sabian as a weapon and throw him at Copeland. Copeland would spear Killswitch onto the outside. The match ends with Christian throwing Sabian up in the air and Copeland catches him with a spear, and Christian and Copeland win the match. It was a decent match, but it is nice to see Copeland and Cage wrestling together still after all these years. Next up is Kyle Fletcher versus Hiromu Takahashi for the TNT Championship. Fletcher tries to suplex Takahashi onto the apron, but Takahashi will be able to reverse and plant Fletcher onto the apron. Fletcher tries to go for a Liger Bomb, but Hiromu would reverse it into a Canadian Destroyer. Takahashi would try and go for a Bulldog off the top rope, but Kyle Fletcher would catch him and hit a back suplex off the middle rope. But ultimately Fletcher would end the match with a brainbuster, winning the match and retaining his TNT Championship. Pretty good match. Kyle Fletcher looks absolutely amazing. Hopefully this is just the start of his TNT Championship reign. Next up is Mercedes Mone versus Alex Windsor versus Persephone versus Bozilla for the TBS Championship. Mercedes would come out with Royal Guards marching with 8 of her 9 championships. Bozilla would press Mercedes onto the outside onto everybody. Bozilla would hit both Alex Windsor and Persephone with a back suplex. Bozilla would have Persephone on her shoulders, and Windsor would be in a tree of woe, and she would German suplex Bozilla, causing Persephone to suplex Mercedes off the top rope. Alex would have both Mercedes and Persephone in a sharpshooter, but Bozilla would step on their hands so they couldn't tap. Bozilla would hit a moonsault off the middle rope, which popped Bryan Danielson hard. Persephone would be able to hit the Razor's Edge on Bozilla, but ultimately Mercedes would be able to roll up Persephone to retain her TBS Championship. Really good match. Everyone looked great and got their time to shine, especially Bozilla. This was a star-making match for her. She was very impressive, and so big, and so strong, and what are we talking about? Next up is Nigel McGuinness versus Zack Sabre Jr. for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. This match is what we all thought it would be, just a technical masterclass. Nigel will play possum and lays out Zack with a lariat. You know how they say they put bells to ass? Well, Zack Sabre Jr. will bend your arm into your ass. Nigel would hit the Tower of London, but Zack Sabre will be able to get his foot on the ropes. Zack would ultimately get the better of Nigel in a roll-up, winning the match and retaining his IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Zack and Nigel would show great respect to each other after the match, and it was just a great match all around. These British blokes are pretty good, wouldn't you say? After the match though, Queen Aminata and Tekla is still brawling from their 0 hour match, and it spills out into the arena. The Triangle of Madness come out to help Tekla, but a returning Jamie Hayter would come out and help Aminata. I need to see Jamie and Tekla go at it, but I also need Queen Aminata and Tekla in a death match. Next up is the Hurt Syndicate versus FTR versus Brodido for the AEW Tag Team Championships. Brody King and Bobby Lashley would have a meet-off. Bobby slams Brody, but Brody would get up and hit Bobby with a discus lariat. Cash tries a suicide dive onto the Hurt Syndicate, but they catch him, but Brody would suicide dive onto all 3 men. Bandito would hit his moonsault fall-away slam off the top rope onto everyone onto the outside. During the match, 3 guys in New Japan clothes would attack the Hurt Syndicate, taking them out of the match, which is revealed to be Ricochet and his band of goons. Dash would absolutely kill Brody King with a chair shot to the head, but ultimately Brodido would win the match after hitting their tag team move where Brody kicks Bandito onto their opponents. Now the pin and the finish was a little bit fucked, but who cares, Brodido is the new tag team champions. Next up is Kazuchika Okada versus Swerve Strikland for the AEW Unified Championship. Okada would DDT Swerve onto the steel steps, nearly taking out the camera guy. Swerve would hit the house call, but as he's going for the second one, Okada would move, and Okada will be able to hit the Rainmaker, winning the match and retaining his Unified Championship. After the match, Okada would trap Swerve's knee into the steel steps and hit him with a chair. And as Nana's checking on Swerve, a returning Wardlow would take out Nana, and he would join the Don Callis family. Good lord, how big is this damn group? The match itself was decent. Okada definitely wasn't locked in. Next up is Timeless Toni Storm versus Athena for the AEW Women's World Championship. Toni didn't waste any time and hits Billy Starks with a Storm Zero on the outside. While Billy has Toni distracted, Athena would hit an O face on Toni across the ropes, but ultimately Toni would win the match, making Athena tap out in the chicken wing, and Toni retains her AEW Women's World Championship. It was a good match, but Athena should have won here. I mean, I love Toni to death, but this is Athena's victory. Will Toni ever lose her Women's Championship? The world may never know. Next up is Hangman Adam Page versus MJF for the AEW World Championship. MJF would play mind games and hump Hangman's arm, but Hangman would play mind games of his own and he humps MJF's head. Hangman would put MJF through a table with a dead eye. MJF would tombstone Hangman onto the broken table, and at this point MJF and Hangman are both busted open. Hangman goes for the buckshot lariat, but MJF pulls the ref in front of him, causing a distraction for MJF to low blow Hangman. And MJF would hit the heat-seeking missile. Hangman would get his leg on the ropes, but the ref would still count the 3. But the match is still going on, I guess? Mark Briscoe would come out to go after MJF, but the security wouldn't let him. And as MJF sees the opportunity to remove Hangman's leg, the ref catches him and continues the match. MJF would hit Hangman with the contract, but Hangman would be able to kick out. MJF couldn't believe it and he cries on the referee's back. MJF puts on the dynamite ring, but the ref catches him, and while the ref is throwing away the ring, Hangman hits MJF with a contract, and Hangman would ultimately hit the buckshot lariat, winning the match and retaining his AEW World Championship. Good match, but it was a little bit overbooked. Hangman is already an amazing world champion, but MJF still has his contract, so this might not be the last we see of MJF and Hangman. We move on to our main event, the Lights Out Steel Cage match. Will Ospreay would get a heartwarming video package narrated by his partner Alex Windsor. The Young Bucks seem to have some thumbtacks, but as they pour the bag, it's gummy bears. The Young Bucks don't even have the budget for thumbtacks anymore. Claudio would just absolutely chuck Darby Allin into the cage from the ring. Darby Allin would be taped to a chair, and Moxley would stab Darby's ear with a fork, nearly taking his ear off. Ospreay would climb to the top of the cage and hit a moonsault onto everybody. Tanahashi would try to go high, but Ibushi and Kenny tells him that he's got too much to live for. Darby would hit Yuta off the cage, and Yuta falls onto the announce table. Darby Allin and Gabe Kidd would go off the top of the cage through a mountain of tables on the outside, and ultimately Tanahashi would hit the high fly flow to win the match. Very fun and chaotic match, although I do prefer the Anarchy in the Arena match at Double or Nothing. The show ends with Will Ospreay standing in the ring getting love from his hometown crowd. Just kidding, the fucking Death Riders kill Will Ospreay. The Death Riders would wrap a chair around Will's neck and Moxley would stomp the chair. The show ends with a bloody Will Ospreay with a broken neck. What a bleak ending for Forbidden Door. And that was Forbidden Door. It was a little underwhelming, but it was still a good show. Now maybe I'm just too tired because I didn't get much sleep because I forgot that this pay-per-view was at 1 o'clock. So maybe if I wasn't so tired, I would have liked these matches more. But I still enjoyed the pay-per-view nonetheless. It's just because AEW has raised the standards of their pay-per-view, so it's hard to top them. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'll make more silly videos like this in the future, so stop on by when the time comes. But until then, be careful.